to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into pay dirt in a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Cody Felger, Derek Larger joining you as always. So, guys, we're going to basically talk a little more about the training camp battles and who we believe is going to win certain spots in training camp. Training camp's only a few days away, starting up, so it's coming very closely, and we're excited to see what else is going to happen here. But first position that we kind of wanted to discuss on who could potentially beat the other person out is the second quarterback spot. We're all in agreement that Carson Wentz is going to be the starter for this year coming up, but ultimately it's a matter of who gets the second quarterback spot. Jacob Eason, who was drafted in the 4th round of the 2020 draft, or Sam Ehlinger, who was drafted in the 6th round of this last year's draft. Cody, who do you think beats out the other in the quarterback race for the second spot, and why?
Yeah, I think it's Jacob Eason for reasons why I said, in the last video we looked at it. I just think overall he's a better prospect. He's got a bigger arm. He just has a lot more upside, I think, than a Sam Ehlinger. Now, where Sam Ehlinger beats him out, obviously, is, he can run. He's a lot more mobile. He can do that kind of stuff. He's got that winning mindset and all that kind of stuff. The reasons why the Colts drafted him. But I just think overall Eason's just such a better prospect in just about every aspect. No offense to Ehlinger, but, there's a reason why Jacob Eason was obviously taken in the 4th round, but projected to potentially be anywhere from a 1st to 2nd rounder at one point. Like, he's got the talent that you're looking for in the quarterback position. I mean, there's a reason, Derek, why there were people who before the Carson Wentz trade, albeit it was a select few, but there are people who were legitimately thinking, roll with Jacob Eason as your starting quarterback. Now, I wasn't to that point, but I definitely think the man has a lot of talent, and I think it's going to show. Now, essentially, both these guys are rookies. If you think about it from that perspective of they both have seen zero NFL action in terms of actual live bullets. So I think Jacob Eason's the better prospect personally, and I think he's going to win the job.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Sam Ehlinger and what he potentially brings, and like you said, his mobility and being able to help the starting defense in practices get used to a more mobile quarterback when we have to face a couple this year. Sam Ehlinger may be that guy to step into a lot of those different packages. But, yeah, I mean, I think Jacob Eason with an extra year under his belt, whether that was, with the virtual stuff or not, it was still time to learn the playbook, time to be around the team, time to learn some things as an NFL quarterback. I think Sam Ehlinger is just a little bit behind. So we'll leave it at that. I think Jacob Eason's probably going to be that second quarterback spot. But like I said, all things considered, it sure will be entertaining for sure. All right, next spot, the wide receiver group. We're all pretty in compliance of who the top 4 are. And Paris Campbell just got told today by Chris Ballard in his presser that he's going to be he's 100% now, full go for training camp, which is great. Glad to hear that. And so now ultimately it's a matter of who gets the 5th spot and potentially that 6th spot, if that's what the Colts end up deciding to do, which we most likely think they are. Which 2 players here, Cody, strikes you as being able to take those last 2 spots?
Yeah, I'll probably go Ashton Dulin for number 5. We've talked about this before. The special teams obviously are the reason for that, and I think he's a good player too. And so he's my number 5. Number 6 was a little bit more tricky for me trying to figure out because there's going to be a couple guys, and Ballard even talked about it today a little bit in his presser, or I guess yesterday when this podcast will come out. But yeah, I think it's going to be a battle between Patman and Strawn and maybe DeMichael Harris as well for that number 6 wide receiver spot. Oh, man, it's tough. It's really tough, but I got to wonder Out of all these guys, the guy that's probably the most established is probably DeMichael Harris because he's actually seen the field a little bit. So I'll probably go with DeMichael Harris actually for that number 6 spot.
All right. I'll agree with you with Ashton Doolin at the number 5 spot. We've said it before, special teams and what he provides there, along with a few plays on the offense certainly helps. But I'm probably going to go with Michael Strawn here. He's my dark horse throughout all of this. I like what Michael Strawn has been doing this offseason. He's been getting a lot of first-team reps. He's been getting a lot of work in with Carson Wentz this offseason. So I really like where his head's at. I think that he's in a better spot mentality-wise than a couple of these other wide receivers are. And I think you can move a guy like DeMichael Harris in and out of the roster whenever you want to. I just think Strawn gives you that option in the red zone that a lot of other guys really don't. So I feel like that would be something for me going forward. And I think Strawn could be that last wide receiver to see. I'm not sold on Patman yet, as everybody can tell. So, hopefully not much of the Patman fan club is mad at me at that, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let's move to left tackle. We know most likely who's going to win the spot once he gets back, and that is Eric Fisher. Still unsure as to whether or not he's going to start the season on the PUP list. We know he's going to be on there through training camp and all of the preseason, just unsure whether he starts the season that way. But then you have guys right behind him in Sam Tevy, Julian Davenport, and Will Fries, who you drafted in the 7th round this last draft. So ultimately here, Cody, before Eric Fisher gets put into that spot, who wins this battle here?
I'll throw in Will Holden as well. That was one guy that I think we often overlook, but I think he's going to be right in there battling because he had some reps last year at offensive tackle too. But I think, it's going to probably go to Sam Tevy. I'm probably going to give him the nod there. And I think that's the reason why he was brought in, man. He's had some starting experience over pretty much everybody else. And there's been a lot more positives than, say, a Julian Davenport. Will Fries is a rookie. But Will Holden is definitely a dark horse candidate to come and take that spot in training camp. Do not forget or dismiss Will Holden. I'm just going to say that.
All right. If Will Holden ends up winning the spot there, then I will go on this podcast and I will give you mad props. You predict that one. All right. So let's move to the defensive side here. Let's talk about the defensive ends on both sides. We've been talking about it all off season, how much depth there is with this defensive end group. You drafted Kwity Paye, you drafted Dayo Adangbo, who we may or may not see towards the end of the season. And then you re-signed a couple different guys. You brought back Al-Quadin Muhammad. You brought in Isaac Rochelle. Kamoko Ture is back. He's also going to be 100% healthy going into training camp, which is huge. Didn't have that opportunity last year, so it's really nice to see him get back out there and see what he can do. And I know everybody wants to say that, Kwity Paye is going to be the total number 1 starter and he's going to be out there pretty much every down. Even the Colts have not admitted to saying that at all. Obviously Kwity Paye has to go out there and earn it just like everybody else, even if he has the most potential on this defensive line group at this moment in time. So those starting defensive end spots, man, I think we both have been in agreement that Kwity Paye will probably win it out. But who are the 2 defensive ends you think get the official start?
Yeah, so I want to clarify. Official start doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be an every down player, right? I think the Colts are going to attack in waves. I do. I think there's guys for special occasions. So I think for the label starter, I'm probably going to go Kwity, and I'm probably going to go Tae Kwon Lewis. I think those 2 guys for me are – I don't want to say the surest things, but the guys I'm most confident in right now out of any of these guys, and the guys that I feel like right now I've seen enough good from, a Tae Kwon Lewis that I feel like he's ready to step into that other defensive end spot right now. But I definitely think guys like Kamoko Ture, right, and guys like maybe Isaac Rochelle, or who knows, maybe Ben Banogu, they'll rotate in and out of quite a lot. So it's not going to be like, oh, they're your starter, they're going to be your starter for every down. I don't think that's how it's going to play out at all. I think it's going to be a very much a committee approach because of all the talent you have at defensive end right now. So, yeah, for me, I'm going to go those two guys, but I could also see, those other guys, like I mentioned, and Al-Qadim Muhammad potentially as well, rotating in there. And I think it's going to be a very much a rotation because Chris Ballard loves to attack the trenches. And especially now adding another game, I think it's going to be all the more important to continue to rotate and keep bodies in there that are fresh.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, it's great that we have, guys like that can do that. I think the starters for this year is going to actually be Tae Kwon Lewis with Kwity Paye to start the year out. I believe Toure at some point, gets back into the groove of it and comes back in towards more obvious pass down situations because I think he's more of a true pass rusher. So I think he ends up getting a lot more snaps and things like that. And, Al-Qadim Muhammad will take a few snaps away from Kwity Paye at times. So I think that, this whole group is really going to get quite a bit of action. But I think Paye and Lewis are going to get the majority of the time to start the year out. That's my prediction for it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Linebackers, we know Leonard and Okereke. We've been discussing now for the last couple weeks that third linebacker position, where exactly that is and who's going to take that spot. Who's your final call on that?
So I think to start, it'll be Zaire Franklin. I do. I think he's going to be your starter. Now, he's not going to see a whole lot of snaps, so it's not really going to be that significant, but I certainly could see EJ Speed taking that down the road. Like even this season, I could see that happening. But I think Zaire Franklin's more of the safe option, quote unquote, with the linebackers right now, because I mentioned it, he's a captain on special teams. You know a little bit more about what you have in him. It's nothing spectacular, but it's solid. And so I feel like Zaire Franklin right now will be your Sam linebacker. He's played there before. He has experience there. And I think maybe EJ Speed takes it eventually, but I think to start the year, it's going to be Zaire.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you that Zaire will start out the year, but I think at some point, you're going to start seeing a lot of EJ Speed. And like you said, with EJ or with anyone who gets that third linebacker spot, there's really not going to be a lot of snaps. So I tend to think that you would put the most athletic guy out there that can create a bigger play potential for you when he's out there. And I think EJ Speed has that ability to do something like that. And he's getting the limited snaps that we kind of saw Anthony Walker getting as of last year. All right, let's go to the corner spot. We know Xavier Rhodes. We know Kenny Moore. Those guys at the slot corner and the first outside corner, those guys are locks. Now, ultimately, big question, who do the Colts go with at the second outside corner position? Will it be Rock Ya-Sin, Marvell Tell, TJ Carey, Isaiah Rodgers, all these different guys? Who do you think wins it out?
Oh, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to stick with Rock, though. I do. I feel like last year was a little bit of an enigma for him. I felt like I saw a lot of positive steps in his rookie season, had some good moments last year and some bad moments last year. Now it's year 3, and this is typically the year when defensive ends and corners, something kind of clicks in them. With Rock, he's got the right mindset. He's got the right work ethic. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of things to learn from this last year. And I think he's a guy that's going to put in that work and do that. And, people oftentimes compare him and a Quincy Wilson, who was also a second-round pick in 2017. And they often like to compare them, but honestly, I don't see very many similarities in them. Quincy was always so hot and cold. He was always so emotional, it felt like. You know what I mean? Like one day he's like one of the better corners in the league. The next day he's getting burned by everybody. And you're just like, what is going on? I thought that was very much an immaturity thing with Quincy Wilson, and I don't see that at all in Rock. I see him very mature individual, very mature player. And he's proven, Derek, that he can play in this league. Like, it's not like he can't play in this league. So I'm going to give the nod to Rock, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one person actually puts in the time and the work to be able to be on the field for those Sundays and then doesn't complain when he has to cover grass and not players. So, one guy shuts up and does the work and the other one just talks and feels bad when he gets put on the bench. So I think Rock Ya-Sin does end up getting that starting spot to start the year out. I mean, I think just like defensive line, I think this second outside corner position is going to be a lot of cornerback by committee until the Colts feel confident in whoever it is to take over that spot. So I think Rock's going to do it. I haven't really heard much on Rock. I mean, I guess that's, that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. I guess not hearing anything is sometimes good, but then again, not hearing much from anybody, may not also be a good thing. I guess we'll find out once training camp comes along. We'll see how he does versus Carson Wentz and these other quarterbacks, going forward. But I think he'll take a better jump this year. I think he understands now the situation he's in, and I think he's going to improve drastically. All right, let's go into the last group here to talk about, and that's the safeties. We know very much so that Julian Blackmon and Khari Willis are going to be the starting safeties for this team for quite a while. Just ultimately who rounds out the safety group when you look at all things considered. Who makes the backup roles for the safeties here?
I think I'm going to go with backup free safety will be Sean Davis from Pittsburgh. Okay. And I think I'm going to go with the third safety as the other Sean Davis. I do. Okay. As I've heard more about him, as I've talked with people about him, I think the Colts like what they see in him. Now, I don't think he's going to see the field a ton, but I think he certainly has a role in this team. And I could see them using him in, that third safety kind of role because he's a very sneakily athletic type of player. So I could see Sean Davis potentially taking that third safety spot, and the other Sean Davis, I think he could potentially be a really nice backup to Julian Blackmon.
Okay. All right. I'll go with Sean Davis for Pittsburgh as being the other safety. And then I think the other guy I'll have go in is George Odom. I think is going to be that fourth spot for me specifically. I just think that ultimately he'll figure out a way to make that official spot. I don't think that Sean Davis from Florida is going to see a lot of the playing time, like you said. I think he'll be more of a practice squad guy for a while, potentially. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. That is the look at some of the – oh, Cody got one more thing?
For kicks and giggles, no pun intended, we got to do the kicker.
Oh, yeah, kicks and giggles. Yes, literally no pun intended on that. Ballard did mention that, Hot Rod had a great year last year, but, there's always room to improve. And we kind of understood that once the Colts signed another kicker that, the competition's always there. And, they had that last year with McLaughlin and Blankenship. And Blankenship ended up winning out the competition there. So what do you think of the kicking position for this team right now?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just assume Eddie Pinheiro is some scrub, and he's not. He's not a bad kicker at all. So I think for me, I'm going to go with Blankenship, but I don't know if it's going to be as far and away Hot Rod so much better, where people think there's going to be no competition. I think there's going to be a real competition. I do think Hot Rod's going to get better because, competition breeds excellence, and it's going to make him better as a kicker as well. But I certainly think it's going to be a battle that a lot of people don't think is going to be as close as it is, but I think it might be actually.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you're right. Having that competition to help Blankenship, really does help make him better. And I think that's exactly what he needs. All right. Well, that's going to do it now after the kickers. So let us know what you guys think going into training camp. Who do you think wins out these key position groups going into the season? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts. And as always, go Colts.